Hey guys, Dr. Roshan Ramnarayan here. Welcome to the classroom, where you, me, and my trusty whiteboard will go through medical challenges, matters of the mind, matters of the heart, matters of the spirit, and we'll break it down, we'll go through it, we'll flesh it out, and ultimately my hope is that we'll come to a better understanding about the topics that we talk about. So I wanted to do just a quick video today about fasting and why fasting is so cool. So what I do something called intermittent fasting, and that's what I'll be talking about today. Intermittent fasting is where in a 24-hour window, in 24 hours, it doesn't have to be a day, but in any 24 hours, you fast for at least guys, 16 hours. Now, why that number? Why 16 hours? So this was actually like Nobel Prize winning research by a Japanese scientist back in the 2000s, where he found that after the 16-hour mark, we sparked a really, really, really special process called, and I'm going to write it big and bold here, autophagy. Now this here is real magic when it comes to fasting. But I'll keep you guys in suspense a little bit. Let me explain what fasting is about first. Let me explain how we get there, how we actually manage to get to a fast, and then we'll talk about autophagy. Because this is a big problem, guys. This is a big problem. When I suggest to people, hey, could you do a 16-hour fast? Could you do a 17-hour fast? The average person, what they tell me is, but doc, I can't fast. I never fast. If I skip breakfast, my belly go hurt me. I'll get a headache. I'll cassie. I'll quarrel with my wife. And so the problem is a lot of people are not accustomed fasting. Why? Because we have 3 square meals a day. We have snacks in between. Sometimes we have snacks after. And so we are constantly having food. And so the challenge is that fasting for any prolonged period of time is the body has difficulty. But I'm here to tell you guys today that any adult, any healthy adult, well, I say healthy adult in terms of any able-bodied adult could fast. Obviously, if you have a medical condition, please consult a physician before you attempt any fasting. But more or less anybody could fast. And I'm here to show you how. So for instance, the first question I ask people is, what time is the last meal? What time at night is the last time you put something in your mouth? Let's go with 7 p.m. Let's just say 7 p.m. for average. 7 p.m. is dinner time. And so then I ask the patient, okay, well, what time is breakfast? Maybe around 8. Let's use 8 a.m. So 8 a.m. So 8 a.m. is breakfast and 7 p.m. is dinner. That puts us at 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. is 12 hours. That puts us already at 13 hours fasting. Guys, we're there already for the most part. So here's what we do. Rather than just jump and add on the extra 3 hours, and that might make you feel a little funny, because if we do something that makes us feel unhappy or kind of bleh, we won't do it for long. To get fasting properly, we have to do it slow and methodically. So check this out. This is what we do. So for 2 weeks, let's push back dinner. Let's bring it a little earlier at 6 p.m. What that does now is we go from we'll be fasting now from 6 p.m. to 8 a.m. That makes us 14 hours. We've now successfully added on an hour, and we do that for 2 weeks. We can make small hourly increments over a couple of weeks so that we don't feel it in our stomach or our brains. We don't go hypoglycemic. So for 2 weeks, we do this. And then what we do is after that, we push back breakfast a little bit. We say 8 a.m. to Let's go 9 a.m. And now what we have done is, we've gone now from 6 p.m. to now 9 a.m. That puts us at 15 hours. We've just added on another hour to fasting. And then, we can now, and we do this, and we hold this 9 a.m. change from 8 to 9 a.m. We hold that for 2 weeks just to get accustomed to it. We're going slow. So now, with this change being 2 weeks and this change being 2 weeks, that's a month. In an entire month, we've added on 2 hours. So we've gone from 13 hours to 15 hours, right? In 1 month. We're taking our time. So then we go from 6 p.m. to now 5 p.m. Oops. I'm trying to be all colorful here so you all get the understanding. We go from 6 p.m. to now 5 p.m. So now what that means now is we're fasting now from 5 p.m. to 9 a.m., which is 16 hours. Congrats. But the magic happens at the 16-hour mark. So I don't recommend that you aim for 16 hours. Obviously, 16 hours is awesome stuff. If that's what you can do, good. But push yourself, guys. Because remember, we are holding this change for 2 weeks. So now this is now a month and a half. We've made 3 changes. So what I would recommend is we make one more change. So we go from 9 a.m. to now 10 a.m. And that will put us from 5 p.m. to 10 a.m., which equals 17 hours. So now we've spent now, because autophagy happens after the 16-hour mark, we have now spent an hour in autophagy. And again, I promise I'll tell you what autophagy is just now. But this here, this is crucially and critically important in getting you to be able to fast. Because again, this is 2 months worth of change. To be able to fast properly, going from doubles at 8 o'clock, muffins in the office at 10 o'clock, macaroni pie from the food court at 12 o'clock, then Cokes and a pack of biscuit at 4 o'clock for the drive home, and then roti and curry at 8 o'clock for dinner. Going from that to being able to fast takes time. It takes discipline. It takes dedication. And this is how we do it. Anyone who's ever attempted to fast, who's accustomed eating often, you know how it feels like. You know that you wanna pass out, you get very irritable, you get very angry, you get lightheaded. This is how we do it. And I want you all to recognize, and this is super important, we're already fasting. The chunk of the fast has, without even us realizing it, the chunk of the fast is already there. Now, just to be perfectly clear, this is just for illustrative purposes. Because you could have easily said, you know what? I could take dinner earlier. So I'll make 7 to 6, 6 to 5, 5 to 4, 4 to 3. And I make my 4 changes there. And you leave breakfast alone, right? This is just to illustrate the possibilities of the changes that you can make. But essentially, it's just to show a nice even distribution. If you think that you can take dinner, because for me, personally, after lunch, I'm done for the day. I don't eat after lunch. But I do that on Monday to Fridays, as long as I'm working. Saturdays and Sundays, I have dinner with the family, for instance. But for me, I find that in the evening, I don't really need as much calories, but your life might be different, right? You might be able to skip breakfast, for instance, and then you have lunch, right? And so you eat at 7 o'clock, and then you skip breakfast and have lunch, and that's fine too, right? It's whatever your life needs. That's what you give. Whenever you have the most need for calories, that's when you take your food. At night, I've finished work, I'm relaxing, I'm going to bed. I don't need much calories at night. So for me, it's easier for me to not have any dinner at all. So this here, over 2 months, remember, this one change took 2 weeks. Then this other change here took 2 weeks. Then this change here took 2 weeks. And then this change here took 2 weeks. I'm emphasizing this because it's really, really important. I want to drive this point home that this takes time, and this is how we're going to get it. Over the course of 2 months, we can get you fasting. It's not a quick thing. So, you're there, you're fasting for 17, 18, 19, 20 hours, you're feeling great. What's the big deal about it? Let me tell you. I promised, now let me deliver. So, what is the cool things about fasting? Why is fasting good for? So, here is the thing. Obviously, there are obvious benefits to fasting, right? So, one of the obvious benefits to fasting is weight loss, right? That's a pretty obvious benefit. One of the obvious but very, very, very important benefits to fasting is that you reduce your diabetes risk. Also, most of my diabetics are fasting. Now, it's really important that if you are diabetic, that you come up with a fasting plan or you speak to your doctor first before you start to fast. Because the last thing I want is for a diabetic to start fasting and go a bit too crazy. And then their blood sugar goes low and they have hypoglycemia and they end up in trouble. So please, if you're a diabetic or if you have any medical condition, speak to your doctor first before about fasting. That's really important. So, weight loss, you lower diabetes risk. You're actually helping managing your diabetes because diabetes is high insulin with high sugar. So by fasting, you're bringing down the average sugar. In addition to that, I find that when I fast at night, my sleep is markedly improved. And the reason why I say that is because if I eat at 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night, and I go to bed 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, then what happens is that I go into this low power mode, I have to rest and rejuvenate, but then I have food in my stomach. So my liver is working overtime, my pancreas is working overtime, my intestines are working overtime, whilst I'm there trying to go into this low power mode. So whenever I eat late at night, I don't sleep as well as I ought to. So that's also important as well. So these are all, and any of these could be great benefits to people, right? Just the weight loss alone might be enough to get people excited and interested in fasting. But I've been hinting at this for a while now. Let me tell you about the biggest thing that you've never heard of. Autophagy. Autophagy is a Latin word for auto, meaning self, and phagy, meaning eat. This is an ancient process that kept us alive as a species when we were hunters and gatherers. The theory goes that back in the day when we were hunters and gatherers, we didn't know, we would find food, we would stuff our bellies, gorge ourselves, lie down under a tree, and sleep. And we would get up and we would look for food again. And through evolution, our bodies found that if we didn't have food in 16 hours, if we couldn't find food in 16 hours, there's a very, very good chance that we will not find food for a while. And remember, back then, when we were hunters and gatherers, no one had big pot bellies and no one had any kind of body fat. It was just muscle. And so to protect us from digesting muscle as fuel, protein as fuel, our body sparked autophagy. So what autophagy is, and I'm going to write it in red just for dramatic effect, autophagy is our body going through itself and destroying all the old and broken down cells for fuel, because cells are a rich form of fuel, right? Now, going through itself and destroying all the old and broken down cells and recycling them for fuel. This is what autophagy is. Now, let me ask you this. We have an old cell and we have a new cell. You tell me which cell is going to get infected first. Which cell is going to become let's say an arthritic cell first? Which one is going to turn into an Alzheimer's cell? I'm just using this as an example to illustrate a point. Alzheimer's cell first. Which one is going to become a cancer cell first? Right? Infection, degeneration, Alzheimer's, cancer, all of the old cells. Autophagy is anti-anything bad. Anti-anything bad. And you can do all of this without having to go to the gym, without having to pay for a supplement, without having to buy a subscription from somebody and some program from somewhere. Autophagy and fasting for more than 16 hours, because autophagy starts at 16 hours. It's a spectrum, right? It's not just boom and you start. You go into it. And naturally, we have autophagy going on, but because we're constantly eating and we're in this constantly pro-building state, it's suppressed. So only when and just to be very clear, guys, just to be very clear, what we are fasting from is protein, carbs, and fats. We are fasting from fuel because we need to break down these old and broken down cells for fuel. So you can have, for instance, during an intermittent fast, you can have water, you can have tea, you can have coffee, obviously we'll have milk and sugar. And so this here, we could avoid. And anyone who has done intermittent fasting will tell you just how good they feel. When I'm fasting, I go up the stairs two steps at a time because I feel light, I feel springy, I feel energetic. My brain is finely tuned. And then once I start to eat, I slow down a little bit because that rest and digest part kicks in. So my hope, guys, is to spark your interest or to pique your interest in fasting. And my hope is that you understand now exactly how you can go from eating like an average Joe to now eating where you're fasting intermittently. I do it 5 times a week. You could do it 7 days a week. You could do it 3 times a week. The more you do it, the more time you spend past that 16 hours fasting, is the more time you're spending in autophagy, and is the more and more of these old and broken down cells that you destroy. Let me leave you with this. This is a cool graph. I want to leave you with this. I want to leave you with this. You know how I like graphs? This axis here is our level of degeneration. And this is time. Right? So as we age, we degenerate, right? And we get organ failure when we hit a critical amount of degenerated cells within our organ and we get organ failure or disease within our organ, so to speak. So as we age, we have more degeneration. However, if you do intermittent fasting on a regular basis and you are destroying the old and broken down cells that cause degeneration, right? Because remember, we are constantly accruing this ever-growing pool of old and broken down cells as we age. But if you fast regularly and you are maintaining and sort of shrinking this pool of old and broken down cells, because these cells are responsible for the degenerative changes that occur in our body, then what will happen is you will age and not degenerate nearly as much. You may age and not degenerate at all. You may age and anti-degenerate. And so my point is, and again, let me be a little dramatic here. I would go on a limb and say fasting, for instance, is the fountain of youth. I said it. And I really do see the results and the benefits of this, especially in my older population of patients. I have 60-year-olds and 70-year-olds who are still running, who are still exercising, who are still living vibrant lives. They fast. They are healthy people. This concept that we have to grow old and degenerate is something that I don't think we have to do. There is a way. There is a way. And Google it. Google everything I've said to you, Google it. Google it. Right? And get yourself educated. Get the knowledge in. Look at videos. Think about it. And then go and speak to a doctor. Hey doc, I found this. Hey, I found that. What do you think of this? Before you make any changes, obviously consult with your doctor. He is the leading authority. He will be able to sift through the information you bring to him. He will have the wherewithal and the knowledge to be able to say, this is a fad, don't worry about this. This is good, do this. Because again, this is your health and this is your life. And make of it what you will. So I hope you understand now a little bit about fasting, how to get there, and what the real magic with fasting is about. And how you can be 60 and not be degenerated. Alright? So I'll catch you guys in the next classroom session. See you next time.